As been mentioned, my name is Stefan Nylinder, working as a data steward at NBIS, together with my colleagues on the front row, Niklas and Yvonne. We do a lot of help with data deposition, for example, and since we're talking about biodiversity data, what we're aiming at is usually ENA, European Nucleotide Archive. And I'm not going to mention NCBI, I'm not going to mention any other data depository. Some of you might be using other repositories like NCBI rather than ENA, due to various reasons. But I'm going to promote this because it's a European resource, and the data stays in the European Union, regardless of what happens in the world. We know that we will always have access to the data. Not mentioning more than that. It's a discipline-specific repository. It accepts nucleotide sequence data. It's suitable for reference genome data, so that's where your data should be going, right? It's a partner to NCBI and Japanese databases, so they're mirroring each other's data on a daily basis, is it? 24 hours, I think, they update the mirroring. And it's where all the biodiversity sequence data ends up. Raw reads as well as assemblies. So, just to look at the ENA submission levels and steps. We register this at ENA in the steps from 1 to 4. But they reference each other the other way around. So we start by registering the study, and by the time we reach assembly, the assembly references the raw data, the samples, and the study. So we do it like backwards, really. But if we look at each step, one by one here, the study is what holds everything together. And that's where we urge the PI to step up and say, this is me, this is my task. It's my project, I'm going to register this, I'm going to make sure the title, the study description, the locus tags, etc. are all decided according to the project. It's also where we set a release date for our data. And the release date is preliminary. It's usually 2 years into the future. But that can be prolonged. So you can put an embargo on your data, you can keep it secret, just for your own eyes to see, basically indefinitely. As far as I know, the record so far with data being under embargo at ENA is 12 years? Something like that. I believe the ENA official once said it. Don't take my word for it. But there's an opportunity to renew it every 2 years, and you will get a notification saying your data is about to be public. Are you sure? And in panic, you can run to the computer, log in, and postpone it another 2 years, indefinitely. Looking at sampling, what is it? Well, it describes the where's, the what's, the how's of the sample and how it was collected. We heard this earlier today from Paco. And who does this? Well, preferably the sample collector, the one who collected the samples. That's the person who has all the information about the samples. That's the person who should supply this information. The format is usually tabular, and it's gathered into ENA checklists. And for biodiversity data, we prefer the Tree of Life checklist, for reasons I'll come into later. And there are multiple errors that can happen here. For example, national specific letters, line breaks, mandatory fields not being present. We could have longitude-latitude errors or lack of vouch materials. Some of these will pass ENA validation. Some of them will make the submission bounce. Sometimes the validation passes for the test run, but it still fails at the submission level. ENA works in mysterious ways. We haven't quite figured it out yet. So whatever frustration you have experienced with ENA, I share that with you. For the raw data, that's usually the sequence file and the description of how a sample became the sequence file. That is what we call the technical metadata. Best filled in by the data producer and the sample coordinator. So whenever you are at this stage and you don't know what to say or fill in, contact the sequencing facility, because they are the ones who know how the sequence was generated. And you should keep records on this. I'm going to come back to why in a little while. What's the data formats? Well, it's FASTQ and BAM files, most commonly, and the additional metadata in tabular formats. What's the possible errors here? Well, checksum mismatch, for example. You upload something to ENA, you try to submit it, and it throws back an error that the checksum is incorrect. Something went wrong in the data transfer, so you have to re-transfer everything again. And if you have large files, it will take time. Sometimes the error recurs, so you have to upload it again. And it can take quite some time. So data transfer problems is an issue, especially if you're working with large files. I see nods. Yeah, you've been there. Final step assembly, basically the assembly file, a description of how the assembly was made and from what raw data and sample. So this is where you supply information of how you made the assembly. What's the pipeline? What versions of the softwares do you use? This is the way you describe how you arrived at the assembly. Who does this? Well, the bioinformatician basically is the one who has all the information about how it was made, right? Also, the sample coordinator could be in, and the raw data coordinator. So multiple people had to collaborate and talk to each other in order for this to be of good quality. What's the format? Well, as Thomas mentioned, we have a FASTA, which is the assembly. We have a GFF, which is the annotation. But ENA does not accept that format. They want it in their particular special format called the ENBL file. That's ENA annotated assembly file format. So you have to convert your FASTA and your GFS into the ENBL and then submit it. And that is a large source of error. How many has had problems with that? Yeah, that's it. See a few hands. No one's really saying, yes, I had huge problems with it. I'll do that. I had huge problems with it. We throw in the metadata in a manifest file in text format. We supply context, scaffolds, chromosomes. Many things can go wrong. I'm not going to go into the details there. I'm going to move on. So when it comes to actual submission, ENA has multiple tools for data submission. 3, to be more precise. And none of them does it all. It's a brilliant solution, isn't it? So for interactive submission, you do it in your web browser. You upload the metadata as TSV files, and you transfer the data files separately through FTP, for example. And you can get all the data in except for the assembly that way. For the assembly, we require the web in CLI, also requiring a manifest file in text format. It does its own validation of what's being submitted, and it has an integrated file transfer, so it supports, for example, the Aspera protocol. You can throw in raw reads and assemblies, but not the study and not the samples. Brilliant. And last but not least, programmatic submission. You do it via curl of XML files. You do a separate transfer of data files. It basically does the same thing as the interactive. It doesn't submit the assembly. So regardless of, if you have an assembly, regardless of what you do, you at least have to use 2 different tools. So this is the question we encounter more than once, or more than often. Sometimes we get contacted by researchers, they want help with submission, and they say, how long is it going to take? And how long is a script? It's impossible to answer. It depends on how much data they have, how complex that data is, how available it is, what speeds we get for the data transfers, not least, the availability of involved individuals. Sometimes people go on vacation, sometimes they just disappear. Sometimes they don't answer emails, sometimes they're on trips. There is multiple people that has to communicate around this, so time ticks. Weeks can turn into months, or days can at least turn into weeks. And sometimes ENA themselves is the bottleneck. And whenever you get in trouble with ENA and you need to contact them, it takes time. For a normal user, it could be up to 3 months? 2 at least. At least 2 months. 3 is not uncommon. So if you're in a rush, good luck. It will take the time it takes. So whenever you plan for this, be aware that data takes time to submit to ENA. I think the worst example of this we've ever had at data management was someone contacting us in the days between Christmas and New Year's Eve with an email saying, our manuscript has been accepted. We need help. The data needs to be in latest on January the 3rd. I don't think anyone came back from the holidays earlier than the 6th that year. So by the time we were back at work, deadline was already passed. So having unrealistic expectations of how long this takes can really cause issues. So please be well out in time. And we're not talking days, we're not talking weeks. Please be out months before the data is supposedly in a manuscript and being submitted. So let's take a look at this. The timeline from sample to data publication. You collect your samples. Let's say this is a phony example, but it could be somewhat realistic, right? You collect your samples in 2017. You do your sequencing in 2018, the year after. 2 years later, assembly is finished, right? Ta-da. And then 2 years after that, the paper is published. It's been through revisions. It's finally been accepted. It's out. It's in print. Yeehaw. We did it. And then people think, well, now it's time to publish the data. The paper was accepted. The manuscript has been accepted. It's been through the revision. Now we publish the data. And there's a problem with that. First of all, everyone who contributed to this, are they still around? We don't know. Everyone who was in on this and contributed to this, do they still remember the details? Because some of this is 5 years down the line. Do we have all the necessary descriptions that ENA requests of us? Don't know. Is all that information in the ENA expected formats? Don't know. So this is, I wouldn't say this is the normal way of doing things, because that would not be a very positive view on it. But we encounter this way too often. I would say this is the least good way of doing it. Let me give you an alternative. No, sorry. Let me wait, we give you the alternative. Let me mention this first. Pointer, do not wait until the end of the project to submit your data. When you get your samples, register them when they are collected. There's no need to wait 5 years until you register your data. When you get your raw data from the sequence facilities, as soon as you know what you're going to use, put them out there. Put an embargo on it, slow down, but submit it when you get it. And keep everything private during the analysis. Why? Well, unauthorized access, it protects it. You don't have to stress. And once you are done and you're ready to publish the manuscript, all you need to do is release the data. That's it. So, looking at this, we did the sample collection in 2017. That's when we submit the samples. That's when we register the samples. Data is fresh. No need to backtrack. No need to look through communication 5 years ago to chase details. When the sequencing gets from the sequencing facility to your laptop in 2018. That's when we publish the raw data. When you get the assembly, we submit that when it's done. 20. And once the paper is published, all we need to do is press release. Why do we do this? Well, we do it while all contributors are still there. And we get the best description of the data, the best metadata, in good quality, in the right format, when we need it. So, is this the last slide? No, it isn't. I'm approaching the end. If you need any help, don't hesitate to call us. We're friendly. We're at NBIS. We're also available at the NBIS drop-ins. So if you have questions about data disposition, you could approach the NBIS drop-in session Thomas mentioned. Ask the questions there. We are present. You can contact us in any other way also. ENA has some splendid documentation. Splendid might be overdoing it. Yeah, they had information. There are examples of how to do it in the NBIS submission documentation. That's what we've been assembling ourselves from our own experience. If you read that on GitHub, open repository on GitHub, you can find tons of information and inspiration to get past the hurdles if you do it yourself. ENA puts out tons of checklists. Those are available. There's a tree of life metadata template. If you're stuck at FTP, do try out Aspera. How many people are using Aspera now? 1, 2. Okay, more should be doing it. Doing normal FTP transfers to ENA, and you get a interrupted transfer. You have to redo it all. Aspera does checkpointing, so you can resume transfers. And especially good if you have large genomes and like 20 gigs and you have to upload it in one go. And you are, of course, welcome to apply for NBIS submission support, general support. We are there to help you. And the best of all, we're free of charge. So we actually help you pro bono. It doesn't cost you anything, except email and shared frustration, and then BNA. So, key points, takeaway. Reference genomes require and deserves special attention, in my humble opinion. And I think they demand reference level descriptions. And that is squaring the circle. I mean, all the data you have gathered about your samples, your raw data, your assembly, etc., it needs to be crunched down into a format that ENA accepts. And the shape of fit to what you have for your information and the information ENA wants might not be perfect. We're going to have to crunch your information down into what ENA requests from you. And that could be non-trivial. Takeaway, submit each level of data as soon as they are collected and or produced. Don't wait until the end, please. And whenever you get stuck, we're here to help. And we're happy to help. We are happy to help. I love it.
No, I'm just saying amen.
Amen, okay, that's a turn of words. That's about it. If anyone has any questions, feel free to.
Thank you. Actually, we have time. We can ask questions. Okay, I'll come with the cube thingy.
I like the cubes.
Not the cubes, it's just to make them, yes. The Google cups is where you are. They were.
Thank you for the nice presentation and very useful. I have a question. If you have raw reads of metagenomes, and then you are studying one genome at a time, so you have a question over genome from that metagenome, would you recommend to submit the raw reads of metagenome and the reads of the organism your study is about? Am I making sense? So you're interested in one organism from a metagenome,
Yeah.
So that's your study about it. But
Is there a reason not to do it?
just as. I mean, one could be lazy and just put the metagenomes and say the method how to retrieve the. I think it's a bit because I have hard time with Anna too. They were not really getting it.
Yeah. We don't really encourage people to try to get away as easy as possible with the submission. So if you can publish a lot of information with a bit of, if you can publish more information, you should, in my humble opinion. So sometimes we see researchers trying to get away with a minimum amount of information with the least possible amount of energy put into it and do as quick, as dirty as you possibly can, just to get rid of it, because you don't want to spend too much time in publishing it to ENA.
But can I just, because I had, for example, I know the reads are connected to a sample.
Yep.
And then they don't let you have two types of reads for the same sample. You need to do a new sample. That's the issue.
Yeah. Niklas, do you want to answer that? I think you're itching. Yeah. Get Niklas a cue.
Can somebody give Nicholas a cue? That away.
Right, I don't know if I have the answer to this. I think it depends on the situation and, yeah, things... what should I say? Reality is complicated, and so ENA is structured in one way, and sometimes you have to sort of work around that. So I think you have to look at the situation and discuss it in more detail on what we can do here. But I also want to maybe point out in that some very strange noise sometimes that ENA doesn't come out in a very good light, some maybe. But I want to point out that they're doing an extremely hard job, and they're quite understaffed, and that's why things take time. So we have backdoors into their help desk. So I don't want to promise things, but if you ask us, we have a faster turnaround to get answers around questions.
Often. We also have information that maybe it's not public yet. One of those is ENA has indicated that they will start accepting GFFs here. This year, I heard 26. Nah. Okay, this year, 25. Imagine that, being able to shave 1 year off that promise. We hopefully hope they pull this through. Will make life so much easier, not having to convert it to email format first.
Yes. Good. Yeah.
I just want to add to this with the samples. Yes, it's one sample, but there are tips and tricks. So if you just contact us, we can help you out. Because you can create a more virtual sample. So it's just a duplication, but it has a unique name, and then it works. Or you can put it in different studies or different projects. And then it's also okay. So.
Thank you. And actually, yes, I know that everybody is struggling with ENA and others, but I would like to second, they're trying to do as good a job as they can with their current staffing and so on, and they are willing to listen. So what Nicholas said, that use NBIS as a proxy. If you want some message to come across to ENA that they haven't heard before, talk to NBIS and they can relay this question to ENA or talk to me, because we would be able perhaps to help you to negotiate some of the things about some improvements that should be made and so on. So they are willing to listen. Yep. Thank you so much. It was great.
And again, a takeaway message, don't postpone anything until the very end. It'll just cause you more work and more stress. Live stress-free.